right, so here we are back at Martinsville, obviously one of the most historic tracks on the circuit. You know, you've raced here before. You made your debut a couple years ago. So when it comes to coming back to a racetrack one more time, I mean, where does this track really rank when it comes to this season?
It's not my favorite. We've had. It's funny that the first race I ever ran here is my best finish, even though we didn't finish that good. But in the spring, we were running top 20 and ended up getting wrecked in somebody else's deal, and it took us out of a decent day. So hopefully we can replicate what we were doing in the spring, but just get a better result. Mm-hmm. It's a tough place for sure. I mean, it's not a typical short track at all, and for me, it's always taken me a little bit more time to understand the short tracks other than over some of the other racetracks that we go to. So this is a struggle place for me, but I'm looking forward to seeing what we can do.
Hey, coming down to the last final weeks of this season, I mean, how has your decision really been settling in for you? Has it been evolving, or does it still kind of feel the same?
I feel really good about it, quite honestly. I mean, it was not a decision that was made quickly or made, as a reactionary thing. I knew this was what was going to happen. Actually, before the first race this year, I knew this was going to end up happening. But I feel really good about it. I'm at peace with it. I've got some really cool opportunities outside of racing that we're working on. I think it probably won't get real until I see everybody down at Daytona without me, and see somebody else in the 45. But knowing that I got to help build a foundation with Nice and be a part of that history is really cool. So I'm gonna look fondly on those this year.
You said you made the decision before the first Martinsville race. That's pretty early in the season. I mean, why was it really made so early?
And I'll say this: it wasn't made in definitely. There was always, if there's a sponsor come along, we'll maybe look at it again. But I just looked at where everything was, and my own mental health was kind of in a state of stagnation, I guess. It really wasn't very good, and I wasn't sleeping very well, and just wasn't happy as an individual. And that's a whole other deep discussion for another day. But it was just tough on me personally, and we started thinking about it, and it was pretty much finalized after the Charlotte race, I'd say, and we just kind of knew it was time to move on and do something different, because I just couldn't deal with the personal stress that I had, and then the family stress was also a big factor in that too.
Yeah, a lot of fans don't really understand that side of the sport. They see you as a driver.
Yeah.
You get to drive a race car. How lucky are you? But for you, I mean, how did that other side, the mental stress, the physical, traveling all over the place, dealing with sponsors, I mean, it's a lot. Was it more than you expected, or did it just hit you a different way than you expected?
I knew what to expect just with the ARCA thing. You kind of prepare yourself for that. And one of the nice things about the ladder process that we have is you're steadily prepared for the next thing. And I traveled 15 weeks out of the ARCA schedule, and would have traveled more if my back hadn't been broken. Mm-hmm. I gave up a lot of my social life, which I was willing to do to race, and my family time I sacrificed, and I miss that. I really do. And I commend and really think a lot of the drivers that can travel as much as this was required, because it's a lot. The fans maybe don't realize it as much, but in 4 days we're going to be in Texas, and then in 4 days after that we're going to be in Phoenix. So it's you're constantly moving, and I'm trying to focus on school as well and get good grades, right. And have a good family life and all that stuff. And it was just getting harder and harder to keep all the things balanced and justify doing what I was doing at the pace that I was at.
Yeah. What was your family reaction? I mean, did they play kind of a part in it? I'm assuming they knew.
Sure.
As soon as you started thinking about it.
Yeah, my dad and I, when it was really made, was after, like I said, after the Charlotte race. He come up into the lounge and talked to me, and I was in tears after the Charlotte race, like just broken. And we had a really good talk about it. And fortunately, my family has been behind me with every decision I've made. My brothers, my sister, and even my niece and nephew who are kids, but they're all really supportive of me, and that's one of the nicest things to have, is knowing that your family has your back. And I've been trashed on social media before and all that stuff, but it's always nice to know that you've got your family behind you no matter what. So it was cool.
And what was the reaction from the garage? I mean, obviously there's a lot of drivers who are still going to be racing next year, raced you this year. I mean, what's the reaction really been like since the announcement?
I think it's been positive. I haven't had a chance to talk a lot with some of the drivers. It was funny that one of my good friends in the garage, Wendell Chaffis, ended up announcing his retirement like a week after mine, and He ended up leaving after Dega, so I was sad to see him go and not getting to spend the last few weeks with him as a friend. But everybody's been really supportive of it, and hopefully this guy misses me next year. But
absolutely, we're planning on you coming back anyway.
Hey, you never know.
We hope so.
But it was really positive. I think 99% was positive, and it was a little. You had your trolls here and there, but it was mostly positive.
And what you wrote, that long press release, it went very in depth, and it was kind of a side of drivers, as I said earlier, that we don't really see.
Yep.
When it came to writing that out and putting that out there, explaining to people what you're going through, was that kind of tough, or did it kind of feel good to get that out?
It was a huge burden off of my shoulders. It's saying the thing that you've always wanted to say, and then you do it, and you kind of it exposes you in a way that you've never really been exposed before. And I thought it was very almost liberating. And I was sitting in the library doing geology homework actually, and I was sitting there and I was like, I was thinking about it, because one thing I didn't want is to have just a typical PR like Fontaine will not drive the 45 next year. I wanted it to be from me in a personal level, and so I wrote it and sent it to my dad, and he edited a little bit. I mean, he added maybe a sentence or two, but 99% of that was just me being honest. And I think I've always tried to be that guy that's just open about my own struggles and things like that, and I felt like that was something that I needed to do for the fans and for my family and all that.
What has the team really been thinking? Al Neeson, everybody, when they found out, I mean, did you really let them know early into the process, or maybe a little later?
They knew before we announced it, and Al and Cody Efall are two of the highest integrity people I've ever met and worked with, and they were very, very supportive of it. Cody is an excellent general manager, and he's been a crew chief of mine this year a little bit, and Al is, I think, the best owner I've ever had. So very supportive of me, and they have my back the rest of the year, and whoever they decide to pick for the 45 next year, I'm going to be really excited about too.
We're seeing a lot of drivers retire. I mean, that's why you were just one of many. Your story was pretty unique, but I mean, what do you think is really changing in the sport? Do you think it's really the PR side and the strict schedule and the difficulty with sponsorship, or do you think it's kind of individual with everybody?
I feel like I can be a little bit honest about it now, because I don't have anybody to please anymore, but I do think the sponsorship is a big factor in it. It's hard to find it. I mean, you look at half the cars in Cup now are either don't have a sponsor or are splitting the schedule between 15 different sponsors, and it's not a good thing. I really think that's a factor. I believe the sport is going to get better. I do. I really do. But we're going through a period right now that's just, it's tough. It's really tough. And, I hope, I don't know how much of a statement my stepping away will be, but I hope other drivers who have decided to step away will kind of be an eye-opener to some of the people in the sport still, to say, hey, we need to look at some changes that can be made, because there's a lot of really good guys in the garage that you need to keep around for as long as you can. And as going back into that fan mode next year for me, I want to see a lot of these guys stick around. So hopefully things can change and get better. I do believe it'll get better, like I said. I think there's a lot to be positive about in the sport. We're just going through a lull right now that's been really tough on a lot of people.
Yeah, it's one of the what-ifs that everyone thinks about. Well, what if the performance wasn't where it was with Nice? What if you were up front, you had 2 top 10s in the first 3 races? What if that was the season? Do you think that would really change your thoughts when it comes to looking for a 2019 ride?
I think regardless, I'll be the first to admit I'm not a driver that is hireable based on talent alone, like a Sauter is or a Kraft. And those guys, no matter what, I think they'll have a ride because they're just as good as they are. And I'm not there yet. I haven't earned that right yet. It would have taken a lot of sponsorship for me to stay in something next year, and for me to even want to consider it, because my family's been a big supporter of mine, and I wasn't going to ask them to make that commitment again in 2019. So it would have taken a lot of help to do that. And you see yourself, I mean, there's a lot of drivers that run a lot better than I do that are having trouble finding sponsorship in this series. So it's kind of like, all right, well, if I did go run well, what tangible numbers would it produce? And I'm grateful for the support I did get. Superior Essex, I built that relationship over the course of 2 years now, and I'm really proud of that relationship. They weren't our biggest partner this year, but they were an important partner. And Brian Ensign and Ken Brazil, with those guys, they were with me, and they were with me on this decision. And probably two of the most professional individuals I've ever met in this industry. So I was really proud of that relationship, and hopefully I can keep that going on a business side, moving forward. But we had a lot of good supporters, but it was just time.
Why not go to short track racing? Why really call it a career in racing overall instead of just maybe spanning back a little bit? I
certainly wouldn't rule it out. I talked to my family about it and my friends about it. I have a standard on how I want to do it if I'm going to do it. And if I'm going to come back to truck, it won't be full time. It will be in a competitive deal. What was my third one? I had a third one, but I have some standards now. And with short tracks, I have to be having fun, and because I think short tracks, relatively speaking, are like that deal was it's so much fun. You're typically not traveling that far. You're maybe an hour and a half from the racetrack or something, and you're not staying overnight anywhere. You're going just having a good time, and you're 9 times out of 10 your friends are your crew, so I wouldn't rule that out. But I've talked to some GMs and team owners and people, and I kind of affirm that I want to have a year off of not doing racing at all. So 2019, I don't expect to race anything. And the earliest I think you'd see me in any kind of vehicle would be 2020.
Right. I mean, so you're completely done racing? I mean, I guess that's how some people saw it, but I guess you're, as you said, taking a year off. I mean, do you think that one season, was that really what you had planned, or is that kind of just how it's kind of evolved over time that you think that would be a good idea?
I'll say that going into Daytona this year, I didn't expect this to be my decision, but it started to kind of swell up over time that was what was necessary. And you set expectations, and you have these grand ideas of getting a sponsor and getting a good ride. And I really wanted to come back to Nice next year if I was going to race again. I don't think it would have driven for anybody else even if there was an offer, because I really liked driving for Nice. But as the year sort of progresses and budgets are getting set and companies are starting to say, okay, this is what we're going to spend in marketing, you start to realize there's not really a lot of room for me in there. And I certainly tried. I spent a lot of time calling companies and calling people, and it was such a stressful experience getting told no every week, and it's tough. I mean, it's hard. And when you're doing it like me, I don't have an agency that represents me. I don't have a team of people that does it. I mean, my dad's helped me a little bit, but he will be the first to tell you he doesn't have a lot of connections in the business world anymore. So it was kind of on me to go get it. And I tried every pitch, idea that I knew, and it just wasn't catching. So you just kind of get to the point where, do you really want to be that stressed all the time? And in order to not be that stressed all the time, I came to the conclusion that I needed to step away from it.
Did you have fun in 2018? I mean, did you enjoy this season?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I certainly don't want to give the impression that I wasn't having fun. There were certainly times where I was frustrated, and Charlotte was a great example of that. That was probably the most on the ropes I've been in a long time.
Why that race?
It was just it really didn't start off that bad that weekend. We practiced okay, and then we got in the race, and I just made a lot of mistakes. Like I'll be the first to tell you, I made a lot of mistakes, and when you've made mistakes, it's just a burden when you get out of the truck. I remember when we had to park the truck, like 20 to go, I couldn't get out of the truck. I was just like, I was about to break down completely, and I didn't want to do it in public. So I think it's different when you know that it was a mistake you made, and you made several of them. And I remember Josh Rayum was running around me, and I accidentally wrecked him, and he was really understanding about it though, and I just felt terrible because that's a small team and a really good guy, and I would never want to wreck somebody on purpose. So it was just those things added up, and I was just really put me against the fence a little bit. And it got better. Like Vegas was fun. Even the second Vegas, we didn't finish as good, but it was still fun. And my team has made even bad weekends really enjoyable. Like the group I've got has been really fun to be around, even when things aren't going so well. We've still managed to have a good time.
Yeah. Do you regret the step up the trucks for this year, or do you think that this was bound to happen? This sponsorship issue, the stress for you personally. Do you think it was going to happen eventually, and might as well it happened this year?
I have a motto in life now, and I try not to regret any decision I've ever made. I just try to learn from all of them. Yeah. I don't regret going to truck. I think it was maybe too big of a step, but I don't regret it at all because I learned a lot. I got to meet some really cool people that I wouldn't have met if I wasn't in truck this year. And I got to learn a lot about me as a person and what I can take and certain things like that. And I don't think I would have had a lot of the relationships I have right now if it wasn't for running truck. But I learned a lot for sure. I certainly don't regret it.
Yeah. Final question. What's next, really, in your career? You mentioned a little bit of something with, with school. I mean, do you plan on staying in the sport in some capacity or the other, or is it really something outside? What are you really looking at?
Well, I know me and my roommate are planning to do a road trip down for either the 24 Hours Daytona or the ARCA race Daytona, because we road trip down this past February for the ARCA race, and we haven't decided which one we want to do yet. So I want to be a fan again, as it pertains to the sport. But on the other side, I'm going to be in. I've got some internships for a politician, and I won't say who it is, but he's on my shirt.
McHenry.
I've got an internship lined up with him. He's a congressman here in North Carolina, and I'm going to go work for him for a little bit and just kind of see what the world's like, without racing, and enjoy it for a while. So I'm looking forward to it.
Interested in politics?
Oh yeah, I'm a political science major.
Really? Wow.
Yep.
So yeah, that's really what you're looking at. If something's going to be outside of racing, it would be there.
The goal was no matter how long the racing career was, I want to run for president at some point. So that's the goal.
Justin Fontaine.
I like it.
Yeah, well, definitely appreciate your time, Justin.
Thank you.
Yeah, best of luck today.
Thank you very much.